This is the Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, Beau Cook from Loan Market, BTZD, the official apparel partner of the Paracave Podcast, and the Parramatta Times, the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another cracking episode of the Paracave Podcast. Troy Warner here, and we are back into the interview-style podcast this week today with a former NRL player. He played for the Brisbane Broncos and the Penrith Panthers, started off his career there, won a premiership at the Penrith Panthers in 2003, also played for New South Wales City and also played a game for the Kangaroos, the Australian side as well. Played over in England as well. And of course, I am talking about Mr. Joel Clinton. Now, Joel was, as I said, played for those clubs in Australia and also in England, so we talk about that in the chat with him. We also talk about growing up and also who he supported, favourite players, playing at the Panthers and the Broncos, and obviously we talk about that 2003 grand final. Look, it was a great chat with Joel. I really enjoyed it. Some great stories there, some really interesting stories, especially about Wayne Bennett, Shane Webke, also some characters at his Penrith days as well, Ben Ross, Scotty Sattler, and the like. So a great chat. I really enjoyed it. The time just flew by. I appreciate the time, Joel, that you spent with me talking on this one. And I'm sure that the fans and the listeners will like this chat as well with yourself, Mr. Joel Clinton. So this would not be at all possible without the help of the sponsors. Major sponsor, Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, Beau Cook from Loan Market, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Teamwear, the official apparel sponsor of the Paracave Podcast, and also the Parramatta Times, the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast. More details about the sponsors and the Paracave Podcast merchandise after the chat with Joel, so stay tuned for that info. But for now, that is enough of me talking. You don't want to hear me. You want to hear the interview with Joel. So as Hindy says,
get a beer, coffee, whatever you want.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy, and let's get straight into it.
Hey guys, how you going? Joel Clinton here, former ex-Penrith Panther and the mighty Brisbane Broncos player, and I'm about to have a chat with Troy on the Para Podcast, yeah.
And as you heard from his intro, my guest today on the Paracave Podcast is a former NRL player with the Penrith Panthers and also the Brisbane Broncos. Also played over in England for Hull KR, represented New South Wales City on 3 occasions, and also one game for the Kangaroos as well. Also won a premiership for the Panthers in 2003 as well. Welcome to the Paracave Podcast, Mr. Joel Clinton.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Troy. It's should be a good chat today, mate. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward to it. That's for sure. Now, growing up in Riverstone near Penrith, was rugby league always on the radar as a sport that you played as a junior?
Yeah, well, believe it or not, my mother would not let me play rugby league until I was about probably 13 or 14. So I always used to have to play soccer because Mum just didn't believe in the contact sport, and she thought it was for mugs and just wanted to protect her son, I guess. But yeah, I ended up convincing her when I was that young because all my mates were playing, obviously, and I really wanted to play, and she finally let me. But I think on the first game I had torpedo pads, shoulder pads, headgear, mouth guard. I think I was the most the most padded up little kid on the field. Yeah.
Well, then, growing up near Penrith in Riverstone, was the Panthers, was that the team that you supported as a kid, or was there another
definitely, one? Yeah, it sure was. Yeah, we went over there as young kids, like I was just talking about, and went and watched the older boys, the older generations of the guys that went before me over there, and I still love them to this day, mate. It was one of those things where the Battle of the West, it was either like Parramatta, obviously, which you're a fan of, or Penrith, and I was more towards the Penrith district, and that's the juniors competition I played in. They were in the Penrith district, so I always just loved the Penny Panthers, definitely.
Who were some of the favourites growing up watching play?
Oh, I like Johnny Cartwright. He was a great player. Royce Simmons and MG. Just sort of actually, and believe it or not, he's a centre, and I probably shouldn't be telling him this, but Ryan Girdler was someone I looked up to as well. I just thought he was a legend, good-looking bloke, obviously a ladies' man, and and I just thought, what a legend. I loved him as a kid, and then I ended up playing alongside of him, believe it or not. Yeah.
Yeah, and winning a premiership as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Was it then a case of just playing in the Penrith Junior League, progressing through the ranks of that, and then signing with Penrith?
Yeah, it definitely was. I got better and better as it took me a while to have my sort of growth spurt and everything as a young kid, and after I got to about the age of, I'd say, 16, 17, around about that age, I started getting, just the body started growing, and it just got a little bit bigger than everyone else at the time, which was good for me. But and then I progressed right through the juniors and made the, I was in about that age, so I was around the Jersey Flegg age, sort of missed the Harold Matts and SG Ball and all that sort of stuff, and then started playing with quite a few of the boys that and went right through, and obviously played a little bit of not much reserve grade and then played first grade. But I went through the junior system there as well as guys like Luke Lewis, Trent Waterhouse, Rooney, all those guys were we just sort of played juniors together and progressed right through, and then a couple of them played first grade before me, and then we went on to take the comp out in 03, yeah.
Well, first grade debut was against the Cowboys in round 7 in 2002 at Penrith. I love hearing debut stories. What do you remember of your debut game? Anything stand out?
I guess the main thing that stood out for me was Johnny Lane coming up to me on a Thursday night training, and I was training for reserve grade, and then he came up to, and I wasn't in the full-time squad or anything like that at all, okay. And he came up to me and said, "Look, I'm going to play you in first grade this week." And I was like, I just think I'm not going to say it out loud, but I swore at him. I said, "You what?" And he said, "I'm going to play in first grade this week." And I was like, "You're not, are you serious?" Rah, rah, rah. And he ended up doing it. And I remember ringing as many people as I could on the way home that night, and I couldn't sleep that night. But the debut, I think I did come off the bench, and they dropped out. And I think Scotty Sattler was meant to catch the ball for me. Still really good mates with him to this day. And he's like, "You'll be right. You catch it, young fella." So I had to, being a front row, I probably couldn't catch quite good back in the day, and still can't to this day. But I remember taking the ball off a dropout, and that was my sort of first introduction to first grade. And just run as hard as you can, as they teach you training. You know what I mean? Yeah, definitely.
Well, 19 games in 2002, and then rolling into 2003. Was first grade everything you thought it was going to be like after that first year?
Yeah, I think I just think that first year was more about I was like, I think I was only 19, so it was a bit of I just sort of sat back and watched the older boys do their things, and just sort of in awe about some of the training ethics. Those guys, that their diets, that was a big thing that I wasn't used to, because I didn't have that sort of background where I had to eat right and do all that sort of stuff. I was never taught that, so that's sort of, I had a bit of puppy fat when I was back around that age, and sort of learnt to sort of just filter that through into my program and how I trained and sort of treated my body. And it took a few years to get everything back and mainly nearly get a six-pack, mate. I was pretty close,
Oh, we've all got one somewhere. It's there somewhere.
Somewhere, right. But that was that was the main thing that I learned that year, was just sitting back and watching the guys do extras of training as well. That's a big thing, and that sort of filtered through to the next year, mate. Yeah, it worked really well for me that year.
Well, it was a pretty sort of meteoric rise, I guess, because before we get to the grand final in 2003, you make your debut for City Origin as well. No doubt that was a highlight in your career. And then did you think then, by playing in that game, you were a possible State of Origin chance?
Yeah, well, it just sort of came out of nowhere, because I wasn't really reading too much into football, if that makes any sense. I just remember playing and just getting out there and really enjoying the game, and then not going home and studying it like a lot of other football nerds would do,
Yeah.
But I just, I forgot about the game when I went home, and it sort of all just progressed quite quickly for me at a young age. And I was lucky, I had guys like Craig Gower around me a fair bit. Every time I made representative football, he was right next to me. And he's a loose unit, believe it or not. But,
I've had him on the podcast. He's
But his training ethic and everything was one of those ones I sort of followed suit as well, and that was a big stepping stone for me. Yeah, and obviously every guy's dream is to play State of Origin. Unfortunately, Ricky Stewart didn't see fit that I could play in those coming years. I made the squad a couple of times, and he just we tried to set up a meeting with him and find out the reasons why and what can I do to make that top 17 squad, and that sort of was a dead end road, that one, where he sort of didn't want to follow through and let me know. Yeah, but I tried, me and the CEO, Shane Richardson, he tried to help me out. Johnny Lang got in touch with him as well and said, all right, why can't we, let's talk about what he can do and how he can progress into that Origin team. And it sort of never eventuated, unfortunately, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, because, that's as you said, a learning curve and what you can go back and work on, isn't it, to get into that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's... I guess everyone has a different outlook on coaching, but if you're going to make a person succeed in their career or something like that, you've got to, even if you're not their coach and you don't like them, I suppose. And, I don't think I ever did anything to upset the man personally. Maybe on the field or something like that against his players, who knows? But But so that's just one of those things that happened in my career, unfortunately, mate. But I got to play quite a few other games, so I was quite proud of that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that 2003 season, Penrith were pretty much dominant that year. They took out the minor premiership. They pulling big home crowds, and then it was a massive turnaround after the year before, where they finished 12th in the competition, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was huge. It like I spoke about earlier, it started really developing, and we had all those juniors come through, like myself, Trent, Waterhouse. Lukey Lewis was already playing first grade as well as the other Luke Rooney. And, and we got Marty Lang over from Cronulla, and Johnny Lang. And it just, Marty Lang was, even though he's nuts the way he used to play football, his training ethic was through the roof. He would train the house down, and he trained like he played. So if you didn't, on contact sessions, if you didn't tackle him like you were playing a game, you'd hurt yourself, because he was just nuts.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it was bananas, and so it taught me to do that as well. But we had all those guys coming through that year that were getting a taste of first grade, like myself included, and we started looking at those guys, what they were doing the extras, turning up to training earlier, do the extra fitness and things like that, and it really went a long way for us that year. And the older guys like Scotty Sattler and Ryan Girdler and Craig Gower, and even little Preston Campbell, sort of took ownership of that squad, mate, and we just sort of followed. Yeah, definitely. Did
Marty Lang have a sidestep in him at all? Because I don't think I ever saw him sidestep.
The only way Marty Lang would sidestep is if he saw a buffet to his left-hand side, I reckon. So that'd be about it, mate, yeah.
Yeah. Nah, that's it. I always used to see him run straight, and that was about it.
Oh, that was his go-to every single time, yeah. And if you told him, I remember Luke Prittis would always say to him, he'd say, don't run at that bloke. He'll sit you, like Steve Menzies or someone like that who would just cut you straight in half. Marty Lang would deliberately run at him because someone told him he can't, and he
challenge himself.
His mindset was just like that. He thought, right, well, you're telling me I can't, I'm going to show you I can.
Yeah.
And he won a few times and got cut in half a few times. I've seen them both, mate. Yeah. Definitely.
For sure. Could you believe that in your second year of first grade that you're in the grand final? an NRL grand final?
No, it was a bit surreal for me. Like I said, to be honest with you, I don't think I appreciated it as much. And you probably heard this story before, but the older you get, the longer you get in your career, you realise what you've just done, and you realise how hard it is to make another one or get close to another one. And you know, I was lucky enough to have my father in the crowd and quite a few mates, and you know, had a big brother. I think had about 15 or 20 guys in the crowd in one little area, and with my dad obviously, and got to take him in the sheds after the game and everything like that. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, it was surreal, and I, you know, the older I get, the more I appreciate it. Yeah, to be honest with you.
How was your week leading up to the game? Was it nerve-wracking? You just wanted to get out there?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was, you know, because when I was younger, you know what you're like. You're a typical young bloke, and there's a camera around, and you want to talk to it, and rah. And the older you get, the more you just want to go, well, I'm not, you know, that's not me these days. But yeah, it was quite, because there was cameras everywhere, and there was interviews, phone interviews, paper interviews. You know, it was great. You know, and you look at the paper every single day, and you know, I've still got them in the scrapbook, or my mum made up for me. And,
nice.
And yeah, and you look back and you see all those memories, and it was a good ride. Yeah, I definitely, you know, if anyone's lucky enough to do one, you know, enjoy the moment. That's probably the number one thing I'll say to them, because it goes like a blink of an eye, definitely.
Yeah, well, I mean, as a Parramatta supporter, I was going for and I live in Penrith actually, so I was going for the Panthers that night against the Roosters, and
definitely.
It was a wet old night in Sydney that time.
Yeah.
It was 6-0 at half time in favour of the Panthers.
Yep.
At half time, did you think you had the belief to go on and win the game, being only 6-0?
Yeah, I think, you know, we had a really good chat at half time, and there was a lot of belief in that room. I mean, you could feel it. It's a grand final, and it's like one of those sayings where you just, you know, you've got 40 minutes to either go out there and come away with a great memory or come away with a bad memory, you know, and it was one of those moments, and we just got out there, and you know, we played a bit ad-lib football. You know, I started offloading a bit, and even though it was wet, and you know, and we started, Reece Wester started break, and Luke Prittis obviously, you know, speaks for himself in that game. He was just an experienced man who'd played in one before, and you know, he was probably the oldest head in the team. We always called him Pops, you know, because he just acted like that, you know, and kept us all in line. And we just sort of, like I said earlier, we just followed them guys, and those guys were just, they had the belief in the change rooms at half time was quite high, to be honest with you. Yeah, definitely.
The tackle by Scotty Sattler on Toddy Byrne. Do you think that's the turning point of the game, or was there another turning point of the game? Because I mean,
I just think, you know, there was a couple of turning points in the game, like I was talking about earlier about the offloads. That sort of broke the game open a bit. But that, you know, that moment in his career was obviously the best moment he ever had in his career, and just the commitment and dedication that he showed was, you know, if you refer back to what I said earlier about his training ethics, the way he's dieting and all that sort of stuff, you know, everything leads up to big occasions, right? So you get one crack at a good moment in life, like he did, and he took that opportunity, and that just, the belief in what we saw out of that, you know, an old ugly, don't tell him he's good looking because he thinks he's a glamour. You know, an old lock running down a winger is just, you know, it goes down in folklore history. That, you know, that'll be forever played in grand final week for the next 150 years, I can imagine, and good on him too. He is a nice bloke, believe it or not. Yeah.
Does he let you know about that tackle every time you catch up?
Yeah. Oh, Scotty Sattler he would turn up to the opening of a dishwasher, that bloke. He loves it. He always talks about the tackle, and he's always up doing his PR and everything like that. But, you know, he's had a good career, and he's having a great career after football as well, definitely. Yeah,
definitely. Well, I got in touch with him when I knew that I was interviewing you, because I've had him on the podcast before. And he actually said that you could make it in any era as well, because you trained hard as well and played hard as well. But you love to party hard as well, and that you
he told you that, did he?
That you were joined at the hip with Trent Waterhouse whenever there was a celebration.
Yes.
Did you guys live together before, Trent Waterhouse?
No, it was me and Benny Ross.
That's
me and Trent Waterhouse played. You know how you're talking about junior football before. he was Cambridge Park and I was Riverstone Razorback. So we played each other for quite a few years before we made the representative teams, and we used to just, we probably nearly had a punch on together because that's what park football was like back in the day, wasn't it? You had to prove how good of a fighter you were as well as a player. So we played each other for quite a few years, me and Trent, and we ended up we probably hated each other on the field, and it's one of those moments where you meet each other with the same shirt on at training and you go, oh, actually, he's a good bloke, So, and we did, if there was a function on where there was free alcohol and free food, me and him would definitely turn up to it for sure with our best shirts on.
Was he part of the hijacking of the bus from the Pioneer Tavern after the grand final?
That was mainly Craig Gower, like I said, a loose unit, running out in the middle of the highway and waving the bus down. And lucky old mate, he was a good bloke, and he stopped and drove us all, and we were all on the bus dressed up as, I don't know, it was a rap theme. I can't remember what we were doing, but that was a couple of days into it by then, I suppose. But that was good. Yeah, he was definitely there, mate, right next to me and Gower.
He also mentioned too that you used to this Scotty Sattler, that you used to love your Elvis Presley sideburns and your greasy hair when you played. Was that just a phase definitely that you went through on the field?
Oh, I think it was. Yeah, it was probably something. That just you do as a kid, and you look back and go, oh, what did I do that for? And you see all the photos of when you were young, how your mum dressed you. That's just the phase that we all go through in life, and you think, what was I thinking back then? But different mindset, different era. So everything's a bit grey these days now, mate.
Nah, that's all right. And one of the memories I remember of the sideburns and the hair was that hit from Sonny Bill Williams. I think it was 2004. Yep. Is that one of the biggest hits that you've been involved in or had?
Yeah, it's probably the one that gets highlighted the most, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, and on my behalf, I'm still an advocate of the shoulder charge. I think that was fair and square. He put a great shot on me, and like you said, the hair flicked back and made it a bit more dramatic. But I'm an advocate for that shoulder charge. And it was a big hit, but I think the biggest hit I had put on me was when I was playing for the Broncos, and I think Jerome Rapati, it was off a dropout, and I took it off a drop. I had like a 25-metre runoff, and I was just absolutely gassing. I was flying into them, and he came in for it was like a shoulder barge, but he turned his back, and our heads clashed, and I hit the back of his head. And as you know, those boys have got a lot harder heads than myself and the other boys, and it put my nose across my face and took me off in a medicab and all that sort of stuff. That was the worst one for me. I think I had headaches for like 2 weeks after that one. So that's the one that the Sonny Bill Williams one doesn't worry me too much because it's just is what it is. But the Jerome Rapati one, when the boys showed me that still makes me cringe and gets a bit crook in the guts because it was quite bad, that one. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen that one. I can't remember that one, so I might have to.
You'll have to look at it, mate. All my mates send it to me every second week. Yeah,
even though you don't like it, they still send it to you.
No, that's what your mates do to you, don't they?
True. Did you think that the Panthers might have gone back to back in 2004 because you made the prelim?
We did, but I think that year we had a great buy in Amos Roberts. He came along and he just had that speed, that raw speed, and we had a couple of clumsy games that year, but we still managed to win it. And I just remember purely off the back of him just getting out in the open air and just going and pinning his ears back and scoring a couple of I don't know, you'd call them lucky tries, and we had a good year. We were determined again, but I just think, we got into that game against the Bulldogs and. Reece Wesser got sent off for 10. I'm pretty sure. I remember that. And then the Bulldogs, they had we had two great packs. We had, Tony Puletura on my side and Stunny Bill and Willie Mason. And then, I had Marty Lang and we had a really good pack. Like it was going to be a big battle. We knew that to that game. And I just think, those boys, they wanted it a bit more than us that year. Not that we didn't want it at all, but we just, I just think it was one of those times where it wasn't our time. Yeah, unfortunately, definitely. But we did believe that we were going to go all the way that year, definitely.
Yeah, no, it was certainly close. But another massive highlight, I guess, for yourself in 2004. You represented Australia against New Zealand in Newcastle. Yep. I think that game was on Fox the other day. That must have been a proud moment for you and your family. And how did you find out that you made the Australian side?
Well, I went on tour the year before. I was lucky enough to go on tour, and I actually played. I didn't get caps for them. I played against England A. We had a trial match over there, so I put the Aussie jersey on that time, and then played a game against France. But it wasn't a test. So I didn't get a cap for that
against
as well.
France.
Yeah, against France. Oh. Yeah, it was like a friendly against France, like a warm up, and and I played against France as well. Yeah, you can have a look on the stats. So I played that game, and then I actually got a phone call the year after off Wayne Bennett, and and he said, "Look, I'm putting together a good team, and I really want this year to be about the memory of Anzac." And he had an old war veteran in there as well, doing a speech before the game. And Wayne Bennett, I can't say much more about him. Whatever's always been spoken and how highly everyone regards him, and he's good man manager. He knows how to get the boys up. Very quietly spoken, and just. Yeah, and that phone call for me was like, wow, I finally get to put the jersey on and again, but actually get a cap for it. But it was great. It was a great memory. It was a great week. I remember after that game, I walked off the field and the number one person that, when I was playing with my brothers in my backyard, it was always Paul Harrigan. I was always Paul Harrigan. That was my role model when I was young.
Nice.
And he came up to me after the game and he shook my hand and said, "Oh, mate, congratulations, well done. I've been keeping an eye on you." And I just was like, I didn't know what to say to him. I was like, I've been following you for years. Like you're an absolute legend, and I still think he is to this day. Yeah, so that's the great side effect of rugby league, isn't it? As a kid, you don't realise and. Someone you put the boots on in the backyard with your brothers, and next minute they're shaking your hand and congratulating you for them watching you play. So it's a bit surreal, stuff like that, and it still happens to this day. You hear stories like that,
yeah, for sure, and it just gives you that boost of confidence, then, doesn't it? That
it does.
Saying that one of the greats, and another great front rower in rugby league history was your front row partner Shane Webke.
Yep.
Do you think he is one of or the best front rower that you played with or against?
Yeah, I think so. Him and obviously his big mate, Big Petro, like that. Those two boys playing against him, you just knew you were going to be sore the next day. Put it that way.
Yeah.
But just like his work ethic. Like when I went on tour in 2003, I was his roommate the whole time for the 6 weeks we were over there touring around, and he would get up. Like I was talking about earlier about the training ethics, and he would get up, if we had a fitness session that day, he'd get up and go down to the gym and run 5Ks extra that day just because he always knew, and he taught me, he said, always work on the thing that you don't like the most. So, if you're in the gym and you don't like chin-ups, work on chin-ups. And his thing, he goes, I hate running.
Okay.
He said, so I run all the time. He said, because I'm no good at it. And he actually really was good at it, believe it or not. He beat most of the backs on these long runs we do.
Yeah, wow.
But yeah, his training ethic was great, and he taught me quite a bit on that tour about discipline and things like that. And so it was good to see that side of it, like another player who I'd never played with, I didn't grow up with. All I did was see him on TV and news and all that sort of stuff, and then actually see it in real life and get to be in the same room as him for 6 weeks. So but he is, he was a rock, mate. He had that body shape. Petro was always taller. Shane was always shorter. And he had that really hard body shape to sort of tackle, like a Marco Mealy.
Okay.
The shorter front rower where they don't have much, from the chest to the waist, there's not much body shot area. And they were really good, those sort of props. I always rate those body shape front rowers because they're quite hard to tackle, and he was a beast, mate. Yeah, definitely.
What was Shane like as a roommate? Because I think I can't remember who it was, but I heard the stories about Mars bars and things like that over on tour.
Well,
he's the elder statesman.
He was a tight ass. We used to get a kitty every week, and he saved up every last cent because it was in pound, and he wanted to convert it back to Australian money when he got through the airport and count all his money, and he's probably still got it in his back pocket somewhere. But no, he was funny to room with. I remember one time he said to me at the start, he said, look, I know you're young and you're going to go out and drink. He said, I just go down to the bar downstairs and have beers. And he said, I know, I've heard about you and Trent and Gowie, rah, rah, rah. And he said, take your room key with you. And I said, oh, why is that? And he said, because I won't let you back in the room if you don't have your room key. He said, I'm not getting out of bed. He said, you'll learn the hard way if you don't take the room key with you. So on the first night out, what do? I get back at about 3 a.m. and I'm knocking on the door. I don't have my room key. And he yells out, sleep outside, mate. I'll let you in at 5 o'clock. And I was like, are you serious? And he's like, shut up. He said, I'm trying to sleep. He said, I'll let you in at 5 o'clock. He said, lay on the floor. And I'm not joking. I had to like curl up on the floor in front of my room. And then he comes at 5 o'clock, Nathan's door, and wakes me up. And he goes, you won't ever do that again, will you? And I went, no. And he goes, you've learned? I said, I'll learn. I said, I'll take 2 room keys with me, mate. Yeah, definitely. So that's a true story. That one, I can vouch for that, because it was an uncomfortable sleep that night. Yeah.
Great story. Playing for Penrith, was Parramatta the biggest rivals?
Yeah. We had, we had great clashes with Parramatta. I remember Lee Hopkins. He was at Penrith with us, and he went over and played with Parra. I think he left in 03. I think he went, because he was with us in 02, and he went over in 03. And that, they had some good boys over there that year. They had quite a, Hindmarsh and those legends, Kalis boys. I think. Nathan, he was always a beast, like to compete against. I think he was the captain, like 20 or something like that. So
youngest ever, I think, NRL captain. Yeah, he was. I remember that stat. Definitely remember that one. And they were really good to play against. I remember we played them in I think it was one of the last games, home games at Penrith in 2003. And I think, it was quite a big game, that one. And they played really good at the start of the game. We came home with a win that one, but they put up a good fight. I think it might have been the last game of a competition game of the year. I can't remember which one. But anyway, we had a crowd of like 20,000 or something like that. As you know, back then that was quite a decent crowd, and we always get good crowds. Battle of the West. It's just you grow up watching it. It's gravy. Like it's this rugby league gravy, and I loved it. Yeah, and you love being involved in it, even if you played over there at Parramatta. You love showing up and taking home the trophy that day, even though there wasn't one, or sticking your chest out a bit further that afternoon. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's certainly my favourite game of the year, being a Para fan, living in Penrith, going down to Penrith Stadium and watching that one. So, loved it. 2008, you moved to the Broncos. What did you feel that you had to move up north to Queensland? Was it a bit of the Wayne Bennett influence when you had him in Australia, or you felt like you needed a change?
No, well, to be honest with you, it had a lot to do with Matty Elliott, I suppose, because I was a big believer. I started. We were negotiating with the contract and all that stuff. So it had a bit to do with Wayne Bennett, of course, as well. But that I didn't want to leave Penrith. Yeah. Matty Elliott came along that year, and he's promising the world and this and that, and it never came to fruition. And I'm like. And it got to the final meeting where we went to a cafe. Me, David Riolo was my manager, and obviously, Matty Elliott. And we were sitting down there talking, and I was asking about the junior system. I thought the junior system could be improved a lot more. I mean, it's outstanding these days, but back then I was like, to progress more people coming through, because look at the success we had with the guys that I've been mentioning earlier. Yeah, it was just a fluke we all came through, but there wasn't really a progress path or anything like that to introduce quite a few of those young boys into training full time or giving them a taste, of what it's like to train with the full time squad. And he just started saying to me, that's none of your business, rah, rah, rah. And he's like, what's that got to do with you? And I was like, Matty, you just come to the club. I'm telling you I've been here for God knows how many years with the juniors and everything. I'm trying to help out, development players and all that sort of stuff. And anyway, it got to the point where, we got to talking about the money, and then believe it or not, and he was quite an angry man back then. I remember him kicking a couple of garbage bins across the room, and he was under the pump, and I get it. And anyway, so he, we started talking about the money, and we told him what Brisbane offered us, and he's like, oh, right, rah, 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 rah. He's like, we can counter that, and he got quite agitated. And my manager's saying, calm down, mate, calm down. It's all right.
Okay,
And we were in
yeah.
a cafe, mind you.
Yeah,
We're in a
okay.
cafe.
So people are watching.
People sitting next to us, and I'm just going, well, this is awkward.
Yeah, definitely.
And then I think we brought up the Wayne Bennett thing, and that was it. He just flipped the lid.
Okay.
He just absolutely flipped the lid, threw the menu on the table, right? This is how it all ended for me at Penrith. Threw the menu on the table and said, oh, you can go to Brisbane for all I effing care. Threw the menu on the table and got up and walked out of the meeting.
Wow.
That's how I ended up at the Broncos. Obviously, I was in discussions with Wayne, and obviously flew up and met him a couple of times and very interested in the club and Petro up there and all that sort of jazz. But that was true story as I'm sitting here. That was how I ended up leaving Penrith Panthers, was because Matty Elliott had quite a few anger issues in that meeting.
Yeah,
and
wow.
that's a true story, yeah. Unfortunately, it ended that way, yeah.
Yeah, don't blame you for leaving Penrith after that. I mean, it would have been a bit awkward after if you had stayed and
it was,
had that meeting, because you don't know what would have happened.
Yeah, and he ended up, I think last couple of games in the year, I was playing good football still. I was playing great football, and he's like, no, I'm going to put you in reserve grade. That stuff started happening, and I was like, well, I'm glad I've made this choice, because it's like at work. If you know a boss doesn't like you, your number's up. You know what I mean? It's the same principle in rugby league. I guess not every coach agrees or likes the way the style of the player plays or personality. It can be a number of things, unfortunately,
How was that first game against Penrith and playing for Brisbane? I think it was
good.
Round one or something like that.
It was. It was up at Suncorp. Yeah, it was good. Because we beat them, and I remember looking up at the box, looking at Matty Elliott, and I don't think he made eye contact with me at all after that game. He just avoided me. But I don't live with spite or anything like that now. That's in the past, mate. And I don't hold any grudges or anything like that. But that game was good because we got the 2 points and I was happy. It was upsetting to leave that club because, like I said, a couple of good mates down there still playing. But being up there and seeing a different club and the way they trained and the way they handled themselves off the field and just having that one team town too. That's in Sydney we've got quite a few teams and there's every team's in the paper every week. There's a different team they go to and all that. But every day you're in the Courier Mail up there in Brisbane. Or down there, sorry, I'm in Mackay at the moment. Yeah, so down there in Brisbane, but that's how I had to handle that as well because you're always doing PR work and in the news and all that sort of stuff, and that's a daily occurrence at Brisbane. Definitely one team town. Yeah.
Was there any friendly like head rubs or big tackles or anything with your old teammates?
Me and Trent give it to each other on the ground. Yeah, couple of push and shoves. Like that's just two bulls going at it in the same paddock, I guess. And there's always stuff like that. That's just rugby league, though. Yeah, but you go and have a beer after the game, mate. It's all forgotten about, definitely.
That's it. Well, Wayne Bennett was the coach, and he's still coaching in the NRL today. Maybe next year might be his last year. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But what's one thing that stands out for you about Wayne, and maybe something that we haven't heard before about Wayne Bennett?
Oh, I just think, I mean, you've probably heard this one before, but he's really big on your personal life, and I know a lot of people have hyped on about it before, but he's just, he's really focused on what you're doing outside of rugby league because he knows it has a big effect on your biggest muscle, which is your brain. If you're not happy off the field, it sometimes show your performance on the field.
Yeah, that's right.
And he's really big on that, and he, he's quite good in terms of bringing a team together. I remember when we were playing in the semi that year against Melbourne Storm, major semi, sorry, and the media was hammering us. I think Sammy Thaiday and Carmichael Hunt got caught in the toilets with some girl, and we just got hammered that week, absolutely hammered. They were calling for the boys' heads and rah, and he called us in. He said, everyone get out of this room except for the players. And then he took us into the gym and he locked all the doors. And there was just Wayne and the full-time squad in that room. And he's like, he said, let's block out all the noise on the outside. And he said, let's just focus on what we, don't worry about what we can't control. And let's just focus on what we can control. And he said, that's your destiny and where you want to go in this game. And he really made us sort of get rid of that outside noise. And it would have been hard for Sammy and Carmichael. Obviously, they were getting hammered by the press. They had media out the front of their house that week. And you know what they're like. They jump all over that sort of stuff. Where there's smoke, there's fire. But yeah, he just brought us together. And it was really, we didn't win that game, unfortunately. But yeah, the lead up to that game was something special. And I really saw the Wayne Bennett come out just by just segregating everyone else outside of that noise and just bringing everyone in tight that's involved in that group and that team, yeah.
A difficult time for yourself in 2009 as well. You were fined by the club for a off-field issue. How difficult a time was that for yourself? Because it was a pretty hefty fine too.
Yeah, it was. So I'm allowed to talk about that publicly now, but I wasn't at the time. So that fine was a 40,000 suspended sentence, but I got a gag order put on me by the Broncos.
Okay.
So it was actually $10,000 for taking a girl back to my hotel room, which you weren't allowed to do back in the day. Everything was consensual, but it got out, unfortunately, and that was a silly mistake by me being a young fit man, and you don't think about the consequences. You just think about what you want to do on the night, unfortunately. And that was tough for me, because I was playing really good football again, and I started playing really good football for the Broncos because I had, the first year there I went there wasn't the best year. I had a busted knee, and I just took a while to get over that.
Yeah,
started playing real good football, and that was a big bump in the road for me there. And I think that was the beginning of the end there for me at Brisbane with definitely with Ivan Henjak, because it set a sour taste in his mouth, I think, and after that, it sort of went pear-shaped between me and him, unfortunately, But the good thing was I was still playing really good football,
Well, one of your teammates there at the Broncos at the time was your captain, Darren Lockyer, and a lot of people say that he could be a future immortal of rugby league, maybe the next immortal. What are your thoughts on that? And if it's not Darren Lockyer, do you have an opinion on who should be the next immortal of rugby league?
Oh, Nathan Cleary, mate. I'm a Penrith fan. No. He deserves it. The way he, like I went on tour with him in 2003, and they call him the Roo, like every time we'd had those runs that I was telling you about, Webke used to beat a few of the backs on, he'd be just in front of the group. And the last kilometre, I know there's a lot of other blokes on tour or who have trained with him will tell you this, he would just go. He'd put the afterburners on.
Yeah, okay.
And he would just absolutely blitz anyone. No one would come near him. He was phenomenal. So he trained like he played. And you saw his passion on the field. He just bled, that jersey for the Broncos. And he wanted to win at all costs. And you've seen the way he's played for such a small man as well. But he's, what he's done for the game and what he's doing outside of the game is phenomenal as well. He, the poor bloke, he can't walk through Brisbane Airport. That's one thing I saw without having a dozen fans coming up and getting photos with him. And that's sort of, that can be a burden at times as well when you just want to go in a cafe and have a coffee. And I actually caught up with him at the game when Penrith played the Cowboys this year and went and had a coffee with him that morning. And the same thing happened to him, and even though he's retired, so, we're sitting there having a coffee and he had 2 or 3 guys and young kids coming up, which is great to see that young kids are still involved and they still realise what he's done for the game. So that was, but things like that, to put up with that for the rest of his life outside of rugby league and what he has done in that game, he definitely deserves it. And he's very humble and well-spoken as well, and he's a quiet man. But, deserves every recognition he gets. Definitely, I can vouch for that for sure,
Yeah, no, certainly a champion of our game, that's for sure. You had 2 years at the Broncos. Was there another NRL club after yourself or after your services or before you went to Hull KR?
There was actually, So I had, because like I said, I started playing really good football and had a phone call because I knew, like I talked about earlier, I knew Ivan Henjak was off me after a while. I could just you could just smell it in the air. And I got a phone call off Shane Richardson, who was at Souths at the time. And he's like, and they offered me a good contract. They offered me a 3-year deal to go down there and play with them for the next 3 years. And, it was a nice, juicy contract. And So I went and asked Ivan, and I went and had a conversation with him and said, look, I understand, where things are going with my future here at the club, and can I have an early release at the end of this year? I said, I'll see the year out. And then, I only had one more year left on my contract. And he's like, no, we want to keep you here. We don't have many juniors coming through. Rah, rah, rah. And it got to the point where, my manager called him and asked the same questions that I did. And he said no again. And then we put it in writing. And we went around and we went to the board with it and said, we officially are asking for a release at the end of the year, not during the year.
Yeah. Which is fair enough.
To go. And then, so believe it or not, unfortunately, and you hear horror stories like this. So on Mad Monday, I got a phone call from my manager, and he said, Ivan doesn't want you at the club anymore next year. And now, obviously, that time of year, the salary cap's gone.
Yeah, that's it.
So
end of the year.
The money you're after, I'm not on the tail end of my career, but I was at the later end of my career, and so all the clubs, I think West Tigers offered me a bit, but it wasn't my market value, so we didn't take that. And so that's how I ended up in the UK, obviously, because they have a bit of cash to splash over there, and there was a bit of tax-free sort of stuff going on over there that I didn't know about, which was good.
Yeah.
But it was. It was one of those decisions that was taken out of my hands, unfortunately. So, I would have loved to have stayed in the NRL, but don't regret the choice that happened for me because I had a great time over in the UK. Yeah, had a ball.
You played with Josh Hodgson, formerly of the Raiders and the Eels.
Yep.
And we wish Josh all the best in retirement. He's doing some great things now with the pathways at Parramatta.
Yep.
What was he like as a teammate? Because he'd come over from KR's biggest rival.
Yeah,
FC.
yeah. Yes, that's correct, yeah. No, he was good. When I went over there, he was only a kid, he's only a pup. And he was playing every now and then coming off the bench, and wasn't really a shining light at the time, but good enough to hold a first grade spot, And he trained hard, and he was obviously well spoken. His nickname's T-Rex because he's got little arms. I don't know if he's told you that, mate. Yeah, but it's probably one that's gone under the radar. He left that in England.
Okay.
But so he was a good kid, and what he did when he came over here was just amazing. He just blitzed it down in Canberra, didn't he? And just
sure.
Absolutely played his and for England as well. He just turned it on for the last 5 years of his career, and unfortunately, which happens to a few of us, is injuries. Yeah, that's just the game we play, unfortunately. Yeah, but he had a great career, and it was really good to watch. I did text him a couple of times when he was over here and just said, I'm watching you, and even though I don't support you, I'm still watching you. So, but it was good, because he's very humble guy. As you probably if you've ever had anything to do with him, he's quite a nice kid.
Yeah, no, definitely. Speaking of Hull FC and Hull KR, what were the rivalry games like over there? Because I've heard they're pretty intense.
Oh, they're outstanding. So, I've played in front of some big crowds in Australia, and I remember playing in front of, I think it was 15,000 or 14,000 at Craven Park at Hull KR's home ground there, because they didn't have the big grandstands like they do now, and you couldn't hear each other. On the field, we had to use hand signals.
Okay, wow.
It was just because the singing and chanting that goes back and forth to the songs that they make up is just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And they reckon, the boys were telling me a couple of years before that, I just missed out. All the crowd ran on the field and started belting the piss out of each other, the Hull FC and Hull KR. And I said, does that only happen 2 years ago? And they were like, yeah, you missed out on that. And they said, just be ready after the game, because if it's on, these guys, they hate each other, and they're only separated. So they're in the same city. They live in the same city. They're separated by a river, and that's it, the Humber River. You know what I mean? It's just a little river that goes through the city, and you're either black and white or red and white. And that was, I'd never played in a game like that before until I played in that, and that was good because they had quite a few good players in their team when I was there. Mark O'Mealy was over there, so me and him always had a rivalry every time we played each other. So it was good. Not only did we want to beat them, we had little sort of individual battles on the field, which happens, and so it was good. Yeah, they were really, really enjoyable games to play in, those ones, definitely.
Did they have a Joel Clinton song? Do you remember that one at all?
No, I don't think they did, mate. I wasn't that popular. No, not like Michael Dobson over there, the little bald-headed halfback. But yeah, they loved him. Yeah, no, they do make up songs. They're unbelievable.
Yeah.
They've got these. Apparently, they've got these websites and all that sort of Facebooks and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it is amazing, and they can sing too, the Poms. But don't tell them that. Yeah,
No,
definitely.
That's it. Now, retirement after your English stint. Did you know at the time that it was time to retire from professional football?
Yeah, I just, I was engaged by then with my lovely wife now, and we sort of wanted to come back, and I thought, and I as much as I loved England, I had 3 years over there, 3 great years over there, and I was like, no, my time's up. I sort of want to go back home, and I was actually looking at a twilight year at the Panthers, going back to the Panthers, but that sort of fell through on the last minute stuff, and I thought, all right. And then I love my outdoors, love my fishing, as most of the boys that I played with will vouch for. Always doing silly stuff on boats, and my wife's from Mackay, so that's why I thought, no, we'll see what's back there. And then I got in touch with the CEO of the Mackay Cutters, and they offered me a job and all that sort of stuff. And I thought, well, this can be a start of a transition for me.
Yep.
Can play semi-professional, still get a half-decent wage from rugby league, and then also get some money from having to turn up to work every day, which is something you're not used to a 10, 12-year career. But yeah, that's why we ended up back in Mackay, and I've been here it'll be 11 years next year now, so I've made a real home out of it, definitely.
So you found that transition from week to week, knowing where you are, into retirement's relatively easy?
Oh, it was. I guess it was not like complete retirement for me, I suppose, where a lot of other boys just go from playing football to not. Whether it be medically retired or the clubs don't want them, or they can't get a contract, or just they don't want to play anymore. So, I still played 2 years at the Cutters, so I sort of still had that taste of football, but I still had to learn what it's like to get up at 5 a.m, go to work, do your 10-hour days up here, because everything's run by the mines in Mackay. It's a very, very coal-driven town, and so you do big hours, and 10s or 12s depending on the boss and depending on the locations, and it was a big transition for me, and it was quite hard. And you do sort of go through that mindset of, I'd love to go back to full time, but obviously age and body doesn't allow that. Father time catches up with all of us, unfortunately, doesn't he? So but it was a tough transition, but I wouldn't say it was the hardest one, like I said, because I had that taste of playing football still, and it gave me that release of not just working from then on in. You
mentioned Mackay and the mines there, and that's where you're working these days. I've heard that working in the mines can be pretty tough, pretty hard work.
It is, It's at the moment I'm doing 12-hour days. I'm a fitter and turner by trade. I actually did an adult apprenticeship in the mines, and it is hard. I've got 3 young girls, and like I said, a lovely wife, and I'm always away. I'm away for 10 days at a time and home for 5, and then it's, you get 2 weeks at a time and you're home for a week, or you get 10 and 4 rosters. They can be tough. Yeah, they are. They're very tough, and you've got to have, you really do have to have a wife who is very committed and willing. But like I said, the money's good. That's the double-edged sword. So you can come in town here and earn a half decent wage, or you go over the hill up to where the mines are, and you go and earn a really good wage. And that's the kicker. But you've got to commit 80% of your life to it, pretty much 85% of your life, I would say, unfortunately. But we've got a goal set for the next couple of years, and then I will come back into town, just to get myself on top of life and everything like that financially, and dedicate the next 2 years to it, and we'll go from there. But it is hard. It's hard mentally and physically, but I keep fit when I'm out there, go to the gym and stay healthy, and don't drink beer every night like a lot of the boys do out there, because that's sort of a bit of a crab trap you can fall into and never get out of it. So that's something I try and avoid. Not that I don't mind a beer, I do enjoy a beer, definitely, but not as much as probably what I was back when I was playing. Yeah.
And you also get out and about in your full drive. I seen on your Instagram that you spotted a crocodile the other day on the banks of the river.
That's one thing. Yeah, that's one thing you've got to live with up here. It's just it's part of life. It is. I go fishing quite a bit and throw the cast net into the river, but you've just got to just have a quick look around because they're sneaky big things. That's why they've been around forever. Like they know how to avoid humans and you got to watch out for them. Yeah, they're everywhere up here. It's sometimes they come along the beaches and you see them in the harbour and the marina there, and it is part of life up here. And it's since they don't cull them anymore, they just get bigger and bigger in numbers. I don't mind them. They're beautiful to look at as long as I don't go. Just stay away from them. Yeah, just as long as I've got 10 metres between me and that, and I'm in a bigger boat than that crocodile, I'm happy. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Do you get to many reunions or keep in touch with many of your former teammates? Yeah.
I went down this year. Sorry, I've been down 2 or 3 times down at Penrith. Yeah, they fly me down and I catch up with a few of the boys and all that sort of stuff. So it's good, yeah. And I try and catch up with as many people as I can. But obviously, it's hard being up this far north.
Yeah.
But I don't go to as many as what the boys do that still live in Sydney. But I do. Yeah, I still keep in touch with quite a few boys that I played with. Still regularly in contact with them, and we still the Mackay Cutters. We have a do once or twice a year, and I go down there and I have been coaching and things like that up here, which is really good. That sort of keeps me in touch with rugby league. Yeah, definitely.
Is that something that you thought you would have done after football, coaching?
No, not straight away. I still wanted to play, So I was it was funny. I was coaching reserve grade here for South Sharks for the shirt I've got on right now, and I was coaching reserve grade and I kept putting the boots on and playing, and I just wasn't really committed to coaching yet.
Okay,
and I hadn't just given up not given up, but just haven't hung the boots up, so to speak. And I think one day I hurt myself and I hurt my sternum, and I was like, and I woke up the next morning. The wife's looking at me, shaking her head. And she goes, "You just got to stop. You're working now. We need an income. Rah rah rah." Yes, okay, honey. And that's when I sort of, I hung the boots up and I started coaching. And I really committed that year, and we actually won the comp, which was good. Yeah, so awesome. that was a kicker for me. Yeah, but I enjoy, developing players and developing kids outside of league like Bennett does, and just being like a mentor for them, whether it be rugby league or whether it be the mistakes they make throughout their life, because we've all done them before. Yeah.
Yeah. So with what former coaches that you had, what sort of methods do you use in your coaching that you've learnt from them? Is there anything that stands out? I mean, you mentioned Wayne Bennett there as man management.
Yep. I think, one of my biggest things I think in coaching, and I haven't been coaching for a long time, is getting the respect of your team. If those boys respect you, they'll be quiet when you're talking. If you know straight away, and you have to set that tone on the first day of training, your pre-season and stuff like that, is for them to show you the respect. And if they don't show you the respect, they're more than, and you just have to be a hard ass and say, there's the door, because this is the line in the sand, and you either be on my side of it. If not, there's another club you can go to. And, it sounds hard and harsh, but even playing reserve grade or A grade up here, I think that works. In the industry and working as well as rugby league. Yeah, it's once you get the respect of the players, they get on board with what you're doing because they respect your decisions, they respect your choices you're making in your team selections, and feedback. You've really got to, especially this day and age, how emotional blokes are, and you've got to have an open ear, and you really do. It's been hard for me to learn because you can be a bit of a hard ass playing in the era that I grew up in. It was either black and white. If you didn't like it, tough titties, but now you've got to sort of have a bit of a compromise with the boys and listen and take in their feedback and stuff like that, whether it be good or bad. But I just think, I have learnt that is Johnny Lang used to get it in the room, and so did obviously Wayne Bennett as well. He had the respect of the room. I remember him one time doing a speech at a function in Brisbane. he walked up on the stage. It was like 350 people at the tables. This is Wayne Bennett. And he stood up there and everyone was talking on all these tables. And he just stood there and he didn't say a word. And the bloke was trying to interview him and he just wouldn't talk because everyone was still talking. And then next minute, one by one, you heard all these shushes go around this room. And the room, you could hear a pin drop. It was just, I just looked around in awe and I went, wow. That is a powerful man. You know, that's a powerful man to be able to do that. And everyone's been drinking for the last 3 hours and he just had everyone on a knife's edge and just, you know, and it was great. But that coincides with rugby league as well. And that's one thing that I have learned off guys like him and Johnny Lang is get the respect of the room before you start coaching, you know, and that's a big thing that I take on board,
Nice. Well, wish you all the best in your coaching career. No doubt you're going around again next year coaching.
Yeah, it's hard with the job I'm at the moment. So I'm going to assistant coach much as I can with the A-grade squad. It's unfortunate I can't be head coach. I just can't commit the time to it. But
that's right.
I can commit my time when I do have it, and I will do it. And it's good. It keeps me young. I put the boots on, you know, and run around the training park with them and stay healthy. And it's, you know, healthy mind, healthy body, all that sort of jazz. But it is true. You know, I'm a big believer in you know, hanging around those younger boys makes you feel a bit younger and try and, you know, shows you how unfit you are when you do a fitness test with them or something like that. But that's cool. You know, that's life, unfortunately.
That's it. Well, I've got a listener question from one of your former teammates. Now, he's asked me not to say that it came from him, but it's I'll give you a clue. Oh, well, the question will give you a clue, but he asked about... he said to say, ask you about the solariums you and Louis used to go to.
Yeah, that's a true story. We were young and we had his name was Big Phil. So he was a bodybuilder, right, this guy, and he was just a weapon, you know, big bodybuilder, just huge. And he used to come and train with me and Louis in the gym. And Johnny Lang would let him come to training and he would come and he would, you know, and he just trained me and Louis in the gym. That's when my body transformed and all that sort of stuff. And you know, we just idolised him. He was just this big weapon, and we were like, and he owned a supplement store, and he had solariums out the back, and he used to give us free solariums. Yeah, so I will put my hand up for that one. Yeah, when we were a bit younger, we did that. Definitely.
Is it true that one day you came to training with the cream on, and anyone who came into contact with you rashed up?
Yes, that was true. Yeah, I forgot to wipe it all off because he used to give you these satchels, and I don't know, it's probably got skin cancer ridden stuff all through it. I got no idea, but used to rub it on and to give you more of a tan, you know. And being at Penrith in the middle of winter, you don't really walk around with your shirt off. And so, we're all a bit white trying to get a winter tan, but I can't lie, I can't deny that one, mate. Definitely not. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned living with Ben Ross before, and you went through a stage where you were known as the BMX Bandits, that you used to ride the training all the time. And Ben says that he used to always win the races to training. And then there was an accident that happened one day. What's that story?
So remember the Civic videos?
Yeah.
Used to go and hire videos out and all that sort of stuff. And so we're riding there as we did. We used to ride everywhere just to extra fitness because we were both bigger boys and we needed it. And so we rode the Civic video one time and we were going down this ramp, and I ended up going down the ramp quite quickly, and I hit the skids, and it was the front brakes on the bike. So I'd hit the wrong brakes because it didn't have any rear brakes. It only had front handle brakes.
Okay.
So I hit the wrong ones and went straight into the glass window through the Civic window. Yeah, and Benny never let me live doubt down. Next week in the paper, I open up the paper, I'm having a coffee, and I'm like, you didn't, did ya? So he's Benny Ross being the media pig that he is, and he loves it. He's gone straight to the papers, rung one of his boys up, and I'm like, you're kidding, you didn't. And the next minute, everyone knew about it. So that's a true story as well, mate.
Was that the Civic video up on High Street? Up the top?
Yes, it was. Yes, remember that one up there? Yeah, that was it, mate. I had that little, true story. That one,
I remember that one. I used to be a member of that one up at High Street there.
Oh, there you go.
I don't remember the broken window though, so that's all right. Well, we'll wrap things up with a quick top 10, which is, and then the set of 6. But first, a quick top 10, and it's basically sort of a yes, no, and you can sort of elaborate if you want to. But cats or dogs?
Dogs, definitely.
Yeah, I would say that up there, living in Mackay for sure. Ford or Holden?
Holden, yeah.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yes, yeah, I love pineapple. Yep.
No worry. Tea or coffee?
I'm actually partial to a tea these days. Yeah,
Okay.
I used to be a coffee fiend, but I do enjoy a cup of tea now. Yeah.
Nice.
Probably with age, mate. It's getting too old now. Yeah.
Nah, true. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars. Yeah, definitely Star Wars.
This one will be an interesting one for you. Rambo or Rocky?
Oh, that's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah.
God, that's a hard one to pick from. Oh, being sport, I guess you'd have to say Rocky. Yeah, Rocky I'd lean towards, yeah.
Yeah, no, they're great movies. What's your favourite Rocky?
Great movies, yeah.
Which number Rocky is your favourite?
Oh, the one with Dolph Lundgren in it, eh?
Oh,
yeah. The crazy
4.
Russian. Yeah, that was unreal. Yeah, God, I love that one, definitely.
Peanut butter or Vegemite?
Peanut butter. Yeah, I love my peanut butter.
Yeah. Are you a morning or night person?
Morning, yeah.
Morning.
As much as my wife's discussed, because I'm always up early at the mines. I'm up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning at the mines. So I'm definitely a morning person, yeah.
Body clock goes on and days off too.
Yes, it does, yeah. It kicks in, yeah.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coca-Cola, yep.
Seinfeld or Friends?
Seinfeld. Definitely Kramer, for sure.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And the set of 6, bit of personality stuff. Favourite sport outside of rugby league?
Golf. I love my golf, yeah. Enjoy golf. Like watching it too as a spectator, definitely, yeah.
Do you get to play much?
Not as much as I used to when I was full-time rugby league, put it that way. But every now and then I still play, yeah.
A lot of rugby league players love golf as well.
Oh, yeah, there's quite a few of them, definitely.
Favourite holiday destination?
Well, I've travelled most of Europe and everything like that. I'd have to say it's a toss-up between Italy, because we loved Italy, or just up the road here, Hamilton Island. Okay. I love Hamilton Island, yeah. I'd probably go with Hamilton Island. It's, me and my wife got married there, and my kids love it as well. It's a beautiful place, beautiful part of the world, yeah.
Nice. Who would be the most famous person you'd love to meet and have a chat with?
Love to meet. Probably Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay, he's just a weapon. I've watched his documentaries and read his books and all that sort of stuff, and he just, he's foreseen a lot of his life, and and he's living the way he wants to live, and that's just he's great. I've always idolised Arnie. Plus, Terminator, greatest movie ever.
He's got great movies, and
he does. Yeah.
That documentary he had was really interesting about his life. And,
I
saw him on socials the other day. I think he was in a Target store, and his book was on the shelf, and he just signed about 5 or 6 copies and left them on the shelf.
That's unreal. Yeah, he did a thing. I read an article about him not long ago when he was governor. He went to an opening of a hotel, and the hotel offered him accommodation there for the rest, forever. They said, you've always got a bed here with your name on it anytime you come in. So he ended up going in there, and after he was governor, and they said, sorry, there's no bed for you here. So he ended up sleeping out the front of the hotel with a sleeping bag, and then they interviewed him why he did that. And this is only recently. And he said, because people have to learn that not everything lasts in life, and people break promises and stuff like that. And it was just one of those things. You just look at him and you go, wow. So he spent a full night outside in the gutter just to prove that. Yeah, so that was another thing that he's done recently. Yeah, I read that.
Wow, that's interesting. I thought it was maybe because Shane Webke wouldn't let him into the room. So
it could have been, mate. Yeah, Webke was in there counting his money, definitely.
Which 3 former players wouldn't you want to be stuck on a deserted island with, and why?
Oh, Luke Lewis, for one, for sure. He's a pest, a massive pest, as Scotty Sattler's probably told you. Who else? Luke Rooney, because he never says anything. He's just too quiet. He never talks. Yeah. And Ashton Sims is the other one, actually. Yeah. Big Ashton Sims. All he wants to do is eat the big bastard, And he's very fit. He's got a great body. I can't put shit on him about that. But yeah, he loves his tucker. So if we're stuck on an island, there'd be no food left, put it that way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think he's down south in New South Wales now, group.
Yeah, he is down there,
7,
mate.
I think, CEO or something, looking after
Yeah,
that. So
yeah, he's doing something down there.
What's your specialty dish in the kitchen or on the barbecue?
Oh, I do a really nice Sunday roast. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Always like to try and when I'm home, I'll cook up a Sunday roast and make it. Whether the kids eat it or not, it's another thing because they're all young. You spend a few hours in the kitchen and they look at it and they go, "Oh, I'm not going to eat that, Dad." And you're like, "Oh, okay, just sit here until I eat it then." So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Sunday roast. I love cooking one of them. Definitely.
Ah, nice. And who's your favourite musician or band to listen to?
Pearl Jam. Yeah, definitely Pearl Jam. Eddie Vedder. I've always loved them. I grew up with them. I've seen them probably 3 or 4 times in different arenas and different areas. Yeah, I've always loved. I still love them to this day. Definitely. Yeah.
What's your favourite Pearl Jam song?
Better Man. Yeah, got to be Better Man.
Yeah, yeah. I love the line of that song. She loved him. She needs him.
Yeah.
Because now I've forgotten it. Because he won't be back again or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah,
he's a good singer. Definitely a good
great
singer.
song. Well, Joel Clinton, I've really enjoyed this chat. I could have went longer. We've already gone over for an hour as it is, but I really enjoyed this chat and going down memory lane. And thank you very much for joining me on the Para Cave podcast today.
No, thanks for having me, Troy. It's great, and best of luck with the future and everything, mate. If you need any help in the future, mate, just give me a shout out, eh? Not a problem at all.
How you going, mate? Are you a Para Cave podcast listener?
I am, bro. It's a great podcast. Everyone tune in.
Go Para. Well, welcome back, and thanks for listening to Joel Clinton and his rugby league and life story. Look, as I said in the intro, I really enjoyed that chat with Joel. The time just flew by. It was over an hour chat. Some of the questions I didn't even get to ask him because he covered them, and also there was a few that I didn't ask him because the time just flew by, and there was other questions that I asked. But I hope you really enjoyed it. I'm sure the Penrith fans will. I'm sure the Brisbane fans will as well, and rugby league fans. So I'm sure that you will all enjoy it, and as I said, I really enjoyed it. And if I'm ever up in North Queensland, Joel, I'll send you a message and hopefully we can catch up and say g'day. But thank you once again for coming on the Para Cave podcast for a chat. This will be available on your usual podcast platforms, and it will be also released on the Para Cave podcast YouTube channel as well. So if you could please subscribe to that one as well. That you will see some videos of the interviews I do via Zoom, and also some little snippets of the interviews as well during the week that I put on YouTube as well. You'll see those on the YouTube channel as well, the Para Cave podcast. So please subscribe to that one as well as the podcast platform that you listen to, and that way you will not miss a thing. You'll get the notification of when the podcasts drop, and you'll be able to listen to them. Now, this will be potentially the last podcast of the year, the interview with Joel Clinton. I will be taking a bit of time off during the off season in December and January. I will be trying to record some interviews in that time anyway for season 4 of the podcast, so stay tuned for that one. But it won't be the end of me. You will see some interesting stuff on the podcast social media channels. There's also the libraries available of the previous interviews, so a good time for you guys, the listeners, to catch up on any interviews or podcasts that I have done previously whilst I won't be doing anything. If anything pops up during the off season though, I will be sure to do a podcast about it. So we've had the 2024 Eels jerseys released. We've had the Eels draw released already for 2024. So, as I said, if anything major pops up, I will do a podcast about that or indeed if I am featured on any other podcast out there, I will put it on my platform as well for you guys to listen to. So I will be taking a little bit of a break. I thank you very much for your support throughout the year and your listenership and your supporting messages. I really appreciate that because that's who I do it for. I do it for you guys, the listeners. Without you, I wouldn't be doing it. But I just love what I do and wish I could do more of it. But as I said, I do it for you guys, the fans who love listening to it week in, week out. Not only in Australia, but worldwide as well. So I really appreciate those listeners and the support as well. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the sponsors that support the podcast as well. Now, I'll mention those at the top of the show as well, but I'll mention them again. Parramatta Leagues Club, Jack's Pale Ale, which is exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club in the club shop as well. Good for that Eels lover or beer lover, in fact. Get yourself a case today in the club shop. Could be a good Christmas present for that Eels fan or just a beer lover fan. As I said, give it a crack. Jack's Pale Ale. There certainly will be some celebrations going on over the next coming months. So Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club. Also, Beau Cook from Loan Market, your local Penrith mortgage expert. Contact Beau today on 0401 213 236. Get in contact with him for a free chat and see what Beau and his team can do for you. Plus, also to let him know that you heard it here on the Para Cave podcast as well. And also give him a follow on Instagram as well, Beau Cook from Loan Market. So check him out there. I put some posts up on my Instagram that he posts up, some very interesting information as well. So follow him as well. BTZD Teamwear, the official clothing sponsor of the podcast. Check them out at www.btzd.com.au. See what they can do for you and your sports team. With the new season coming up in 2024, contact them, have a look at their website, see what they've got for offer, and let them know that you heard it here on the Para Cave podcast. Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty. No doubt he won't be taking a break over the next coming months. He's available to contact on 0421 588 445. And Shannon is a 5-star real estate agent for Glenmore Park Realty. And look, if you're thinking of selling or indeed buying in the Glenmore Park or the suburbs in the Penrith LGA, then Shannon is your man to contact. So you can contact him 7 days a week. He will help you out, no doubt. And once again, please let him know that you heard it here on the Para Cave podcast. Also, the Parramatta Times as well, the official media partner of the Para Cave podcast as well. Head to www.parramattatimes.com.au and you'll see what is happening in the Parramatta local area. Thank you very much to you, those sponsors. I really appreciate your support of the podcast throughout the year, and I hope that next year we can continue that sponsorship as well. It is very, very much appreciated and helps the podcast grow and supports the podcast as well. So thank you very much to all you guys. Thank you very much to my family, Ella and Amanda as well, for allowing me the time to do this as well, and your support as well. I really appreciate it. Back in the day, before I started this podcast, if I didn't get Amanda said that I could do it. She gave me the confidence to say, yeah, go ahead, give it a crack. And here I am some 3 years later doing it. So thank you very much for that support. I really appreciate it. And lastly to you, the listeners, thank you very much for listening to each and every podcast that comes out. You'll notice that this year there was a few more podcasts that came out this during the week, especially during football season, with the chats that I have with the Duckman on Pulse FM on a Friday and a Sunday. So the replay chats of those ones, also the tipping podcast, and also the game day previews with fans and celebrity fans of the opposition of Parramatta. So hopefully I can continue to do that next year. I hope you enjoyed that format. Something else that you'll find on the Paracave Podcast YouTube channel as well to watch. So hopefully I can do that as well. So hopefully, maybe potentially next year there might be a podcast that comes out every day as well. So hoping to do some more interviews, hoping to bring you some big and massive names in the world of rugby league next year. Working on some really big names, so hopefully I can get in contact with them and get those onto the podcast for an interview with you, for you, the fans of rugby league. So if there is anybody that you would like to hear from in a podcast chat with myself, please send me a message on social media and I will see who I can get on the podcast for a chat, so you can listen to. Always up for any players from any club. Doesn't just have to be Parramatta, but any clubs of the NRL, both former and current, and also celebrity fans as well. Love to hear their stories about their supporting their club. So if there's anyone out there that you would like to hear from, please let me know and I'll endeavour to try and get in contact with them and get them on the podcast, and I will try and record them during my little off season here and get them on the podcast in 2024. So thank you once again, listeners. I really appreciate it. Look, just before I go as well, the Paracave Podcast merchandise, there's a couple of polo shirts available. I think it's 1XL and 2 larges, I think, $25 plus postage and handling. But also a good Secret Santa present that you could get for somebody is the Paracave Podcast hats that you'll see me wear in and about anywhere and everywhere. So just $10, reasonable price, great price for a Secret Santa present. Just send me a message on social media on either Instagram, Twitter or Facebook, and $10 plus postage and handling, and I will endeavour to get that out to you by Christmas time. So please send me a message nice and early and I'll get that in the post nice and early for you. Getting quick before the Christmas postage cuts off. You don't want to be disappointed on Christmas time, but as I said, perfect sort of Secret Santa present. $10 plus postage and handling, can't go wrong. It also supports the podcast as well, so I would really appreciate it if you were to buy a hat and look, post a picture on social media as well of you wearing your podcast hat. So $10 plus postage and handling, and send me a message on one of the social media channels and I will get those ones out to you as quick as possible. Look, a bit of a longer ending today of the podcast, being the last one of the year. And so you probably don't want to hear much more of my voice. But I really appreciate the support from you guys. Have a great Christmas and New Year's with your friends and family. Stay safe and enjoy it. That means that also to Christmas and New Year's, then the footy is even closer to starting up in 2024 for the exciting, and also with the round, I guess you could call it 0, starting over there in Las Vegas, so which is on March 2. So getting closer to that one after New Year's, that's for sure. But have a great Christmas. Hope you get plenty of presents that you would like to have, like to get. For me, it would be anything Parramatta Eels, that's for sure. But look, have a great Christmas, a great New Year's. Thank you very much for the support, both listening and on the social media channels. I really, really appreciate it. Stay tuned to those Facebook and Instagram channels as well, because there'll be interesting content come up on there. And hopefully I get to interview some interesting guests for the start of 2024. But to sign off the show, and as I always say, the Para Cave podcast, by the fan, for the fans. Go Para!
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Para Cave podcast. See you next time.